Hi, I'm Dan Kubisky with the Society of Professional Journalists International Community. Getting uncensored information to people living under repressive regimes is difficult. There have been many different ways to bypass the censors, but one of the most innovative ways has been to use online gaming. Reporters Without Borders came up with the idea of using Minecraft and its global connections to make material available to people living under censorship. With me is Clayton Weimers, the Executive Director for Reporters Without Borders USA, to talk about how the RSF is getting around censors by using the world's most popular computer game. Clayton, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so look, all I know about Minecraft is it's an online place where you can build your own world. My granddaughter is really hooked on it. So Christmas and birthdays are easy. We give her Minecraft related gifts. Could you just explain Minecraft, how it works, and how RSF came up with the idea of using it to bypass censors?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I didn't know much about Minecraft beyond what you just said when we started on this project either. And to be honest, most of my colleagues at RSF have had to ask their kids to show them how to use it. So you're not alone in that. But this idea came about with my German colleagues over at the Berlin office of RSF. And not to create a caricature of Germany, but over beers, they were discussing, what are some ways that we can both circumvent censorship and also draw more attention to it. And someone pointed out that weirdly, video games tend to be subject to a much lower level of censorship in a lot of repressive countries compared with other traditional forms of media. And so, wouldn't it be cool if we could just deliver otherwise censored material via a video game? And so they looked into it, and it turned out Minecraft really was well suited for that purpose.
Okay. And I see you are in the Minecraft library here today. Okay, so you've been doing this for about 6 years. What kind of response are you getting? And are you able to judge how successful you are in getting past the censorship?
We are actually. When this launched 6 years ago, and they thought of it as kind of a stunt around what's called the World Day to End Cyber Censorship. This, once a year day where a lot of NGOs like RSF try to highlight these issues. And the thought process was this will be a cool thing to talk about, and then people will forget about it and we'll move on. They were really wrong. It crashed on day one because the interest level was so high. And that interest level has sustained. It's been fascinating to watch the project grow. As of today, the library has been visited over 1 million times around the world. The books within it have been read over 10 million times. And that's really just a testament to one, the idea that people inherently thirst for information, whether or not you deny it to them. And two, this is just a really unique way to interact with this kind of content. Look, we can put out press releases and do interviews like this until our faces are blue, but at the end of the day, we have to reach people where they are. And a lot of them are playing video games. And what's especially exciting about this project is the median age on Minecraft is like 12 to 19. So we're reaching a whole new generation all around the world of people who maybe don't really understand what's at stake when it comes to censorship, and that's really cool.
And you mentioned you have a lot of material for people to read, and it's like the governments haven't really caught up with this yet. What kind of material are you putting in the library? And is it all run through RSF or are you working with other organizations?
Um, I will be honest, every time I do one of these interviews, I think to myself, oh, if we get too much publicity, maybe they're gonna really start cracking down on it somewhere, and it's gonna be self-defeating. Hasn't happened yet. The original concept was pretty straightforward. We take emblematic examples of journalism that's been censored in one country, and we put it into this library. And there's a different room dedicated to different countries. And so we put a Russia room in, we put a China room in, a Saudi Arabia room in, an Eritrea room in. These are, the countries that are at the bottom of RSF's Press Freedom Index, true censorship regimes where the independent media don't exist fundamentally. The concept, because it was so successful, has been expanded over time. And the first, what I would say is expansion of how we conceive the project is we opened the Mexico room. And the problem in Mexico isn't so much outright censorship, it's the murder of journalists, which happens with alarming frequency. It is the most dangerous country for journalists that is not currently at war. And then this year, to mark the 2026 Day Against Cyber Censorship, we decided to open a US room, which you can actually see behind me. This is what the US room looks like if you can walk around within the video game in this room. And that Statue of Liberty is sort of the centerpiece. And this is a static image, but if you go into the game, that Statue of Liberty is crying tears that are filling up into a pool that is slowly rising as higher and higher until the room is going to be completely filled. Um, so that's a fun aspect of it. Now, in the United States, as much as I have been decrying the state of press freedom in this country for years, and especially this past year with what's going on during the current Trump administration, we are not at a level of state censorship the likes of China, Russia, Eritrea, those countries I was talking about before. But we wanted to highlight the things that hostile governments do to the press, short of state censorship, that are still very concerning and that we should be taking very seriously. And, if you are listening to this podcast, you're probably not unfamiliar with these things. Banning the AP from the White House and from Air Force One, the president suing individual media outlets for coverage he doesn't like, the FCC launching politically motivated investigations, cuts to public media. These are the things that aren't quite censorship, aren't even quite in every case authoritarian, but betray an animosity towards the press that is making journalism harder to do and that is weakening all of our press freedom rights.
Yeah,
And so to get back to your question, sorry, I kind of
yeah.
avoided the question entirely. The content that you'll find in the room, I would think of it more as a museum to press freedom in the United States as opposed to a library. We're not publishing censored content for the most part. So you'll go in, you can see a political cartoon that did not make it into the Washington Post because it was killed by leadership. That cartoon depicted its owner, Jeff Bezos, bowing down and presenting money to President Trump. That cartoonist decided that was the end of her long career at the Washington Post and has since gone independent and spoken out about that experience because it was the first time in her entire career that she's ever been told no over editorial objections to one of her political cartoons. You'll see stuff like a web page of climate data that was deleted very early on in the Trump administration, the kind of thing that if you're an environmental journalist, you would rely on in order to corroborate stories or even to find the story within the numbers. That's just an example of the thousands and thousands of pages of data and information that disappeared from government websites basically overnight when the Trump administration came back into the White House. You'll see a mix of things like that. There's the transcript from Stephen Colbert's Nixed interview with James Tallarico. There's also the transcript of the infamous 60 Minutes episode that covered the detention facility in El Salvador that got killed by Barry Weiss and then eventually re-aired against the Super Bowl. Pretty good indication you don't want anyone to watch it. So these are the things that I would argue are harming press freedom in the United States. They're not outright censorship. We're not there yet, but democratic backsliding is underway in this country, and press freedom violations can happen anywhere, even in democracies. And so we all have to be on guard against them.
And for some of the countries that are experiencing censorship, Vietnam, Russia, and like that, do you have writers from there who are in exile, or are you looking at other experts from the area writing about those areas?
We are curating the content in individual rooms, and I'll be honest, it does not get updated on a regular enough basis for this to be a substitute for being able to access the news every day. We try to keep it fairly fresh, but the point is really more to highlight the kind of work that the authorities don't want you to read, and to draw attention to how this is all happening to hundreds of millions, even billions of people around the world. And so, it's not the same as opening up your favorite news source and browsing around for the news of the day. That's not really, there's just no feasible way to make it work that way. Uh, but someone can go in and read some evergreen pieces of content about corruption in the government, or about a climate disaster that the state doesn't really want to acknowledge, something like that. Um, and it's also just a really good learning opportunity to see what's out there. If you go into the Saudi room, for instance, there's a memorial to Jamal Khashoggi, the murdered Washington Post columnist. So there, it's a variety of different pieces of content that are meant to bring attention to the problems with press freedom around the world, with the hope that it's coming to an audience that isn't always engaging with this stuff otherwise.
Okay. Do you see the possibility of doing something similar in other online gaming communities, like, creating a library in World of Warcraft that gets
Hmm.
protected by dragons?
Oh, I like that idea. I am very much not the video game or technical expert here. I've had to rely on people much smarter than me about these things to even have any idea what I'm talking about right now. But I think that's a great idea. The idea that video games can be used in this way is not totally new. I actually had the pleasure of attending a conference last year called Games for Good. Um, or sorry, Games for Change, the entire concept of which is how do we use video games to make a better world? And so we had a fireside chat about the uncensored library in Minecraft. The advantages of Minecraft are that it's an open world, it is really accessible, it is the most widely downloaded video game of all time, and and people play it in virtually every country in the world. And so I don't know that we can actually find an equivalent that would give us that amount of reach.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to just add about this project that we haven't talked about?
No, I think that's about it. I would really encourage folks who play Minecraft, go check it out. It's pretty easy to find. If you don't play Minecraft, you can download a free version of the game, and there are instructions at our website, rsf.org. Just look for the section on the uncensored library, and there are instructions for how you can find it. It's fairly straightforward. Or ask your kids; they'll show you.
Exactly. Okay, so Clayton Weimers, Executive Director of Reporters Without Borders USA, thank you very much for taking time from your very busy schedule to explain this really innovative project of trying to break through the censorship bars around the world.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.